Let's talk about the 4 biggest lightsaber buying mistakes. And hopefully, following this discussion, you'll kind of walk away and say, hey, I feel a little better about, lightsaber transactions. I kind of know what I need to know. I don't want to do these things, and I want to protect myself from some possible problems. And feel free to comment below with additional lightsaber buying mistakes, or also just different commentary you may have about the issues I'll be addressing in this video. But let's get started. Okay, this is a really big one, you guys. We'll start out with a really big one. One of the biggest lightsaber buying mistakes is ignoring buyer protection. So buyer protection is important. Now, a lot of lightsaber transactions go quite well. You pay your money, you receive your product, right? Sometimes it's not so easy, and that's when buyer protections are important, and you need to know what they are. So PayPal has a lot of very strong buyer protections, for example, and that's a pretty dominant way that people will pay for lightsabers. Some people will pay with other methods too, and that's fine. You need to research each individual payment method, but with PayPal specifically, okay, the first thing you need to do is pay with goods and services. So if you're sending a payment to a seller, sometimes you'll have an option, to send it as goods and services, or alternatively as friends and family. So if you send it as friends and family, that means you have no buyer protection. It's basically like sending cash. So occasionally a seller will try to entice you. They'll say, well, you get a 3% discount, or, you get some type of discount if you pay friends and family. And that can be very alluring, especially if you think, oh, this is a really established company, they look legit. Well, unfortunately, in this community, and I'm sure elsewhere as well, sometimes even established sellers, they'll go awry. So reputation alone is unfortunately no guarantee that you will receive the product or the transaction will go well. Now, it can help a little bit. It gives you maybe a little more sense of whether it's likely that the transaction will go well, but at the same time, you never know. Sadly. So even if it's a supposedly reputable seller, this is important, don't pay with friends and family, or if you do choose to pay that way, just expect that it's possible you won't get your money back if there's a problem. Now, if you do pay goods and services, something you need to know about that is the time frame you have to file a claim. So if something's wrong with your order, if something arrived damaged, or if you just never received your order at all, you have 180 days from the purchase date to file a claim. And it's important that you do that within that time frame, because if you log into PayPal on the 181st day, you're out of luck. Okay. So you got to get that claim open sometime, within the 180 days. And of course, before you get to that point, you would be in communication with the seller, and that's the route you should go first. But if you're not hearing anything from the seller for a while, or just it doesn't seem right, there's too much of a delay, make sure you open some type of claim within 180 days. And PayPal has pretty strong buyer protections in place. So that's very helpful to know that. Now, credit cards also have strong buyer protections. And if you do pay by cash or check, there's not really any protections there, although I don't think people really send concealed cash in the mail. That's not very common. Even people sending checks isn't quite as common anymore. But just, understand some of these payment methods, you have there's nothing you can do, if the seller doesn't ship you something, you're just out of luck. So if you do choose to do that, be aware that you're just risking losing all your money, that you send it. Okay, so that's a pretty big one. Ignoring buyer protections. Okay, another big lightsaber buying mistake that people make is related to pre-ordering. So they disregard the risks of pre-ordering. So you might say there's this brand new lightsaber or lightsaber related product, and it looks really great, and, the seller might open it to pre-orders. Well, pre-ordering, they might even give you like a shipping time frame, like, oh, this new product, we're going to ship it in April, right? And so you think, okay, great, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to ship in April. Everything will be great. Well, pre-orders, you guys, have a lot of extra risks. So a lot of times the reason a company will have pre-orders to begin with is they want your money and other people's money too, in order to fund the run, the run of the lightsaber hilt or whatever the product is. So they don't have the product in hand yet. They might have some models and mock-ups and different things like that, but the product's not finished. And, that means there could be different delays associated with the product. And, even if they tell you like when it's going to ship, I've seen so many pre-orders, even from large companies where they ship later, than the date that they said. So you can't assume everything with a pre-order will go smoothly. And you have a lot of added risks that there'll be some kind of something in R&D that will go awry and delay the project. And just even that, the shipping window that they provide is a little too ambitious, and they'll have some type of trouble fulfilling, the order. So keep that in mind. A lot of people do that sometimes. They think that pre-ordering is the same as purchasing an in-stock saber, but it's not. Okay, so there just are a lot of more potential ways that a pre-order can go wrong. So again, that's not to say don't pre-order, and that kind of goes for a lot of these things. Just know that there are added risks if you do pre-order from a company. Okay, another big thing, another lightsaber buying mistake is expecting cheap lightsabers to be as good as high-end lightsabers. Okay, and again, I'm not knocking cheap lightsabers. They can be very good. There's some really neat, fun lightsabers that are like $100 or less. So those are great if that's what you're looking for, but don't buy like a $100 lightsaber and expect it to be as good as a $500 lightsaber. It's just not realistic, right? Like what goes into kind of the, the parts and the quality and electronics, all of that, it's going to be higher end generally, the more you pay. Of course, there's a little bit of fluctuation with price, right? Like you have some companies that are able to provide a pretty high quality product for a decent price. But generally speaking, if it's like $100 lightsaber or less, it's going to be relatively low quality. And if you want like a really nice kind of high-end lightsaber, it'll probably have to be around $500 or so. And there's so many factors at play here, you guys. It's kind of hard to oversimplify it, but in terms of like the design of the saber and the quality of the electronics and the materials, generally speaking, $100 lightsaber will not be the same as a $500 lightsaber, so don't expect it to be. Now, the final thing, this is a little bit of a return to the pre-ordering thing I was talking about. So this is related to shipping speeds. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that companies will ship on time. And I know I made that mistake a lot initially. I guess, it's related to being optimistic, and it's related to the fact that you expect people and companies to do what they say they will do. But with custom lightsabers especially, you guys, it seems like a lot of companies, just the whole system almost, can be fraught with delays. So you can't put your full trust into whatever shipping window the company provides. Now, this does depend. Again, some companies are much better than others, but some companies have a very bad reputation for shipping slowly. But, shipping slowly, at least to me, is not the real problem. Like, if I pay for something and I know it's going to take 3 months for them to ship it, and then they ship it at 3 months, it's like, okay, well, I agreed to that at the beginning, right? So that's not the problem in itself. But if you have a company that says, hey, I'm going to ship in 2 weeks, and then that gets delayed to 3 weeks, that gets delayed to 2 months, I mean, then that's kind of no good, or it's unfortunate that happens. And in some cases, you'll get a delay that's unavoidable. I understand that, but there are some companies that are very notorious for just having very poor estimates when the orders will ship. And it seems like they could become more efficient in that. But it's just kind of understand that, just assume almost across the board that it's possible your lightsaber or your order will get delayed. And well, one thing you can do about it though is you can try asking the seller in advance, hey, do you know when this will ship approximately? And well, it's possible they'll just tell you kind of their stock answer, but it's also possible they'll give you a more specific answer. But anyway, so that's kind of like what we were talking about with pre-orders. Pre-orders can suffer, delays from shipping, but even standard orders from companies can too. So in summary, the 4 biggest lightsaber buying mistakes, you guys, are ignoring buyer protections, disregarding kind of the added risks of pre-orders, expecting cheap lightsabers to be as good as mid-range and high-end lightsabers, and finally, unfortunately, assuming companies will ship on time. So those are all things to look out for as you're purchasing lightsabers, and a lot of these things will apply to other things you may buy online as well. So keep that in mind and comment below.